Welcome to FAQ PhD Part 2. So far, we have covered what is PhD programs all about and how is the flow of PhD in the process. Sir, we were in the discussion part 1 of the same, somewhere at the definition of thesis, how it is structured, what all it contains. So, can we continue with that?
Yeah. Um, Let me take an example. I think it will make it more concrete. Let us say someone is doing a PhD in psychology, in psychotherapy, clinical psychology, with the title A Study of Narcissistic Personality Disorder in Individuals who had working mothers or non-working mothers. And you want to do this study at a particular city, say Delhi. Now, how will the thesis flow happen for this chapter wise? You will have the title page, you will have those university formality pages, and you will
Right.
come to the index. And the first thing you will have to do is to make what is called the list of operational definitions. Like
Right.
this particular topic, there are three uh, important words in the topic title. The three important words in the title are, let's say the title is A Study of Narcissistic Personality Disorder in Individuals with Working and Non-Working Women at Delhi. Working and non-working mothers
Mother.
at Delhi.
Mhm.
And the hidden idea of the researcher seems to be that narcissistic personality disorder is strongly associated or believed to be associated with early life object loss. And if the mother has been working, the probability of experiencing object loss is high, and therefore the probability of having narcissistic personality disorder is high. So the hidden idea is that children with working women, with working mothers, should have higher percentage of narcissistic personality disorder compared to the control group of those with mothers at home. This is the idea, and this is how the
Idea.
researcher comes to research the topic. Okay. From theory, he gets an idea that this part which is there in theory can be tested out. Let us test it out. So it becomes a PhD topic. Now there are three important words here: narcissistic personality disorder, working mothers, and not working mothers.
Honorable.
So you will have to define in that list of operational definitions just after the index, what does it mean? So for example, what would you call a non-working mother? So you can give a definition that who is not having any regular source of income of her own. That may be one definition. Second definition may be who is not going out of the house on a regular basis. Then let us say somebody is giving tuitions at her home. Now she is not going out of the home, but she is working. Similarly, somebody will say, what does non-working mean? Does non-working mean that she makes her mother-in-law do everything? Or does non-working mean that she can hire help and does not have to do anything? Or does not working mean she is not going out of the house on a regular basis? Let us say somebody goes out once in 3 months to do comparing of an event and makes 50,000 and comes back. What would you call that? So these are the nuances of defining working and non-working. So you will have to define and then stick to the definition, whatever it is, across the thesis. That When I say a working mother, what I mean is somebody who regularly goes out of the house for more than 2 hours for the purpose of earning. You can
So
also
that
qualify.
does also that would also include the physical absenteeism for more than couple of hours every single day,
Yeah,
at least 5 days a week. So that
right.
specification has to be given, that how the researcher is defining the term
Yeah,
in the context of the
research.
application of the.
Correct.
Yes.
For example, let's say somebody is doing work from home,
Mm.
not
Post
going
COVID, there are
out,
a lot of people doing work from home.
not going out of the house and not being available to the child. So how would you define that? So you will have to be very clear about what is definition of a working mother and what is the definition of not working mother. Because two things are involved, three things are involved here. Going regularly out of the house, having regular income, and not being available to the child. Now the crux is not being available to the child. If you have a house
But
with
this
four,
is owing to the employment aspect. If it there can be people otherwise also owing to their illness or their social commitments being absent, we are not considering that. So we bring in the exact versions of what we are going to establish a research on.
correct. So essentially, we want to investigate non-availability, the impact of non-availability. Now that non-availability can be for a variety of reasons.
True.
So we want to look at particular type of non-availability, which is most common, which is non-availability due to work, and essentially work which is out of home.
And we also chalk out that there mothers who are there but they're emotionally unavailable.
Correct.
So such specifications are excluded
So
in the research. So the it is very focused and precise section which we pick up by defining our operational terminologies.
yeah, so you will have to then define exactly what is working woman, not working mother, non-working mother. You may also subdivide them. That the working can be subdivided into out of home working, at home working, working from home, and working for a few hours on a regular basis,
Part-time
or a
workers.
few hours on a non-regular basis.
Hmm. Hmm.
And similarly, not working. So you can define further into not working and always available, not working but not available, not working but partially available, not working but emotionally unavailable. So when you divide this, you get an exact definition and exact classification of these words. So deconstruction of the title is very important. And in the title, you pick up the core words and you define them very precisely, and then use the same definition across the thesis.
So the whole criteria would be used as
Yeah,
applied for the rest of the research.
correct. That will also reflect in the sampling plan. It will also reflect in the questionnaire. It will also reflect in the hypothesis. So when you do a list of operational definitions, these things have to be put there. Then you have list of abbreviations. Then the third list of tables and graphs. Then you come to abstract. Then you come, Then you come to the abstract. You come to introduction. You end the intro. Just for example, how do you do this? Let's say you are doing what I just said. Study of narcissistic personality disorder in individuals with working mothers and non-working mothers at Delhi. You will start introduction with what is narcissistic personality disorder? How is it defined? What are the characteristics? How does the DSM define it? How does psychoanalysis define it? How do various schools define it? Once you do that, you get into has the relationship of narcissistic personality disorder in terms of causality being studied. What has been studied? Does effect of working and non-working mother have a role there? Has it been studied? If it has been studied, what has been the finding on the global level, national level, and local level? And if everything has been studied, then obviously you don't have to do a PhD. So introduction has to end with something to say that there is a gap of knowledge. And this knowledge gap I am filling up. And when I complete this knowledge gap, whatever I intend to, I will come out with two types of outputs of this thesis, that which has academic value and that which has practical value. So this is how you will arrive at a title towards the end of introduction with justification, that there is a knowledge gap and my title will fill that gap to some extent. And the output of that will be A, academic, B, applied. Then you go to literature survey and then you try to find out who else has done this before. Somebody may have done it for both working parents, not necessarily a mother. Somebody may have done it with the similar kind of thing in low-income communities, but not across the society. Somebody may have done something like this, a study of narcissistic personality disorder in individuals with working and non-working mothers in low-income communities. Now, his research is not general. It is very specific. Now, you are doing a general thing. Somebody
It
may
can
have,
also be somewhat like study on research on narcissism in individuals with absent fathers.
yeah, somebody would have done it.
I read a paper somewhere around it, so I'm reminded of
Somebody
that.
would have also done it, like a study of narcissistic personality disorder in case the mother dies within 2 years of birth. That also is quite possible. Somebody may have done it, a study of narcissistic personality disorder in individuals who have been abandoned by the parents and are living in orphanages.
Can it also include the literature review part, as in comparative study of narcissism and dependency personality disorder with parents' physical absence?
Yeah.
Comparative parameters can be also considered here
Somebody can
for
do
the
comparative,
variables.
somebody can also explore the mixed personality disorder, where the absence of the parent leads to both. So that will be a separate thesis. Only narcissism will be a separate thesis. Either of it will be a separate thesis. Comparative will be a separate, and having a mixed will be a separate thing. So that will be literature review, and in literature review, you will have to find out how people have studied the causality and the healing of narcissistic personality disorder specific to loss of the parents, perceived loss of the parents.
Perceived.
So this will be the literature review, and towards the end, you will make a list that when the mother is working, A, B, C, D, E happens. And when the mother is not working, X, Y, Z is happening. And people have linked this A, B, C, and X, Y, Z in some way to narcissistic personality disorder. So when you finally make a list of variables, talk to the guide and finalize the variables, and you put it graphically that this is the model, that working mother, non-working mother is a control group, and working mother leads to A, B, C, D, E, non-working leads to X, Y, Z, and how A, B, C, X, Y, Z are related to narcissistic personality disorder in terms of either prevalence or intensity or specific nature of it. Because certain phenomena may give rise to more of grandiosity and less of self-sufficiency. Certain phenomena will give rise to less of grandiosity, less of self-sufficiency, but very high element of criticizing others. So when you
So
look at,
how many pages usually does this thing would take up? 20, 25 pages, 30 pages, 10 pages, approximately. If it is a direct study, independent variable, approximately. How much is enough, the word limit for it?
okay, it's I'll give you the rule of thumb. You can do it whatever you want, but rule of thumb is this in general. Introduction minimum is 10 to 15 pages. Literature review is 20 to 30 pages. And the longest chapter which fills up the weight of the thesis is findings of the study, which will have at least 50 pages.
Hmm.
It is the bulk. So the total of the thesis can be anywhere between 150 to 250 pages. Usually it is around 180 to 200 pages. But the range is 150 to 250 pages. Now, so literature review ends with conceptual model of the study. That I have found this variable is linked to this many variables in this particular format, and this is what I'm going to study. So then you convert this into objectives and into hypotheses. For example, in your case, you may say that there is no relationship, hypothesis 1, null 1, there is no relationship between occurrence of narcissistic personality disorder with the mother being a working mother. 2, there is no relationship between occurrence of narcissistic personality disorder with the mother being a non-working mother. 3, there is no relationship between narcissistic personality disorder and the mother being present but emotionally non-available. 4, there is no relationship between mother being at work, at home, and being non-available and an occurrence of narcissistic personality disorder. 5, there is no relationship between the level of grandiosity found in narcissistic personality disorder across individuals with working and non-working mothers. Meaning, you take people who have narcissism in both the categories, but if you look at the DSM criteria, you will have 4 or 5 criteria.
Yes.
Grandiosity, inability to take criticism, criticizing others, lack of empathy, and so on and so forth. You can take any one and you can say this grandiosity has no relation, that the person has NPD. But this particular characteristic of that NPD, like criteria, right, is not unique to either working or non-working, it's the same. And you can test out both ways.
I also have another variable to the title. A working woman in the nuclear family and joint family.
So put this into the scope of the study, all of this.
Okay.
Okay, this is what I'm going to explore, and also in the sampling.
Because sometimes we have seen, even if the mother was not there, but the grandmother, paternal or maternal, was very efficient in taking good care, and then this is not occurring.
So then you put a hypothesis. There is no relationship between occurrence of narcissistic personality disorder and uh, working mother
Biological.
when a substitute mother figure was available.
Yes.
And similarly for working mothers, non-working mothers, there is no relationship
No, no.
occurrence of NPD and an absent non-working mother, but with present substitute mother figure.
Mother figure.
So you can find out all these hypotheses. And when you make a list of these hypotheses, you can test them out. Now, to test them out, you will need certain tools and questionnaires. So first you will need who have NPD and who don't have NPD. So unless you put them into NPD test, you can't find out. So you have to use some narcissistic person, NPI inventory or something you have to use. So apart from that, you also need information on whether their mothers are working or not working, whether they were not working and not available or available, whether they had a substitute mother figure or not, and what is their education, economic income, and so on. So for this, you will have to create a page of a few questions asking for this information, put it on top of NPD. And last question you say, please respond to the instrument given, next page. And then the NPI follows. So you will need both the information, what is acquired from NPI, the tool, standardized tool, as well as some additional information which you require to prove or disprove the hypothesis. Because NPI will not tell you whether the working mother was working or not working, whether a substitute
Exactly.
mother figure was available or not available. What is the
Absolutely.
educational and income level of the person? What is the gender of the person? Is there a gender-based difference? So those things NPI will not tell you. So you will have to create a short questionnaire apart from the NPI and put
Yes, whether the mother was single mother, single working mother, such all those extra additional information which are relevant to the studies, leading to the NPD's individual thing, the background of that individual needs to be verified there with that
correct,
questionnaire.
correct. And if you want to look at the healing aspect, then you will have to put some more questions.
Yes.
So it depends upon what you want to investigate. Only occurrence, causality, everyday manifestation, or healing, or all the three. Now that will create the questionnaire apart from the tool that you are using. Now, after you have put the two together, the whole research tool together, which has a questionnaire of your own and the standardized test,
Established standardized.
then make a table where you have hypothesis number and the questions either in the tool, standardized tool, or your questionnaire, which is helping you prove or disprove that hypothesis. Because if any hypothesis remains for which you don't collect data, then you have to do the whole thing again.
And again,
So before you
fair
start
enough.
the survey, we have to make a table that I have 7 hypotheses, H1, H2, H3, H7. H1 can be proved or disproved using information from question number
Based on
7, 12, 15.
mm,
Question number 2 can be used from 20, 22, 28 from the test and 1 and 3 of my own. So you will immediately know what more questions you need to put and which questions are not necessary you can remove. I mean, you can't remove from the standardized test, but from your own question.
yes, but from the own questionnaire.
So this is how the you get to objectives, hypothesis, the table. It's very important. The table of hypothesis and the questions.
Oh,
After that, you get into research methodology and sampling. Now, for a personality disorder, let us say, you usually diagnose it after the age of 18. So your sample will be individuals above the age of 18. And if you
both male and female.
now, if your guide says that I want 450 NPD people in whom investigation can be done, then you will need at least 1,000 people to be interviewed, out of which 450 NPD should be found. Or if the design is that let us look at who don't have it and who have it, then maybe 450 is enough. But if you are looking at NPD between working and non-working, which means or 450 have to be NPD. Now to have 450 NPD, you can't know unless you test.
Absolutely.
So to have 450 NPD, you have to find out at least 1,000 people. And then in the scope of the study, you have to mention, or in the definitions, you have to mention that
What if we don't find in 1,000?
you take
If
more,
at all.
you take more.
So we take more. So we do not freeze the sample size Uh, but isn't that a part of the research that it was not so? Because NPT is not a mandatory phenomena which will take place.
Uh,
It is a higher probability to take place in case of no, working mothers.
Correct.
But constitutionally, yeah,
If that is the approach, then you take total 450.
total 450, where we divide the control group, whichever turns out not so
Yeah.
in the scope of the study. Okay.
So it's easier ways to take total 450. And then
And then will be very much evaluated, like out of 450 sample, these turned out to be this much, out of which this was the
let
number
us say
of
out of 450, 50 people turn out to be NPD.
NPD,
And then you look at those with working
other
and
parameters.
not working. So what you will have to do is that you will have to find people with working women and not working women. That will be the kind of sampling. Then out of 450, you look at, say, you divide it 230, 220. Right? So 230 with working mothers, 220 without working mothers. So what we'll have to do is the person who goes to do the survey, his first question will be, do you have a working mother or a non-working mother? Initially, everything will be okay. But as the sample starts getting filled up, then the problem starts.
Yes.
Let us say you find non-working women, non-working mothers, and you have completed 230. And you encounter somebody and he has a non-working woman and non-working mother. It's of no use to you. So you just have to put it aside and not take it to calculation. Or what you do is, the first question you ask then is, you change the first paper and you say, do you had a working mother or non-working mother? He says non-working mother. You say, I thank you. I can't do the survey because that lot is full. Or
Full.
similarly, let us say you are doing non-working mothers and within that 220, you have 110 male, 110 female.
So will this be called random sampling?
Stratified random.
Stratified. Stratified random.
Stratified. So this is an area by itself, how to choose the sample, how to do the size of the sample. Now, the catch here is that there is a formula for random sampling. That formula believes, it actually assumes that out of the total society that we are living in, 50% is of interest for our study, which is a random assumption itself. But there is a formula. So there is a formula for finding the sample size of any random study. Now the difficulty is, a strictly random study will have a very big sample size.
True.
So usually what we do is that we go in for some sort of stratified random, because if we want people from every strata to get represented in the random survey, the sample has to be very big.
Very big.
Geographical spread has to be very high. Now the heterogeneity of Indian population is so high that this becomes a very costly exercise. So given the numbers and the heterogeneity both being high, usually we apply some form of judgment and we don't go pure random, we go by and large stratified random. So we make a kind of system where we say 450 is the total sample, 230 males, 220 women, right? Or you can say 230 with working mothers, 220 non-working
Non-working.
mothers, and in 230, 120 is males, 110 is the females. In non-working, 110 males, 110 females. Now they have to be taken across Delhi. So you divide Delhi into east, west, north, south, center. So this further gets divided into 5. So let's say first one, we have 230 total working mothers, in which you have 120, 110, 120 males, 110 females. So each of that divides in 10. So east, west, north, south, center. So you will have in each segment roughly 20 males and 15 females, roughly. Now, if you want to have representation of all the income groups, lower income, middle income, higher income, then again you will have to subdivide. So the more representative you want it to be, larger the sample has to be. Because you will be looking at 2 genders, 3 income classes, 3 education classes, and 5 geographical locations. So if you put the permutation combination together, you won't be anywhere between 1000 and 1500. And the rule of the thumb is, in the smallest of that classification, the minimum number has to be 30 for that to be statistically relevant. So let us say you are looking at one part of Delhi in which you are looking at male and female non-working, then both of them have to be at least 30. So if you look at the sample size, how do you find it? One is the formula. Formula gives you one number. Your sampling plan and the necessity of 30 in the smallest of classification, that gives second number. Third, there are requirements of the statistical tool and the software which you are going to use. There are some statistical softwares which give you better results with larger samples. Say, for example, confirmatory factor analysis. If you have sample less than 750, the output is not very good, but anything above 1000 is a very good output. So what you do is you calculate by formula, you calculate by the sample plan, you calculate by the necessity of the software and the test, you talk to your guide, find out the error in this kind of exercises, and you take the highest of the all. That is how you do the sampling size. You calculate in 4 or 5 different ways, take highest of the all. Then you get to the next one, research methodology. Sorry, after the survey is done, you put it into softwares and then you generate the findings of the study, the thickest chapter of everything, in which you make those graphs and tables. So for every question, you make a table and a graph. And then you start crisscrossing questions. Like, how many people have said yes and no, that can be one, to a particular question. Right? And then those who have said yes, how many of them were male, how many were female? Those who were females, how many were highly educated, low educated? How many were middle class and upper class? You can do all those permutation and combination. And the this is called, the first part of findings of the study is called descriptive statistics. And descriptive statistics means you are just describing what you have found in the questionnaire in various combinations and permutations. So what you use here is mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and kurtosis.
Right.
Kurtosis is something which most people are not aware of. It tells you about how much data is concentrated at the peak or the tails of a normal distribution curve. So if this concentration of the tails very much or the peak very much, then there is trouble. Something difficult with the data or something that has to be justified. So you use, for descriptive statistics, for every question you have a table and a graph, and you crisscross also, as I said, and then you have, what you use typically is mean, median, mode, standard deviation, kurtosis. And then you go to the next part, which is called the statistical testing to prove or disprove the hypothesis. So first you have, in findings of the study chapter, you have the descriptive statistics, and then you have the hypothesis proving, disproving statistics. And then you have the overall reliability, validity, and average variance extracted of the study. So reliability refers to, if you do the same study at some other place, what is the probability you will get the same results? So the variable used for that is Cronbach alpha, and Cronbach alpha has to be 0.7 or more. And 0.9 and above is very good. Then you look at the validity measures. So there are validity measures. And the third is average variance extracted. So
I
this
think in this there can be when you're talking about this comparative thing, urban rural would vary.
urban rural will vary, gender will vary, income will vary. So uh, what happens is कि then you go for this and you prove or disprove the hypothesis and you find out the reliability, validity, average variance extracted. And if it's a confirmatory factor analysis of any sort, then you find out the
So this reliability and validity is that of the hypothesis and the findings or that of the whole research?
these are like they are based up, they are actually focused upon the type of questionnaire that you have and the responses you have got.
Okay. Okay.
For example,
The process.
yeah. So reliability is of the overall process, that if you were to repeat the whole thing at a different place, what will you get? There is another measure which measures that if you have a question and you have given four options, how much percentage of the total question is explained by those four factors? So these are very different
Right.
measures to find out that when you frame a question and you give the subparts of the question, right, how much do the total of the subparts explain the whole? That can be one way. How is overall replicable in some other part? And are you measuring what you want to measure? There's a third one. So these are like nuances of the questionnaire.
Okay.
So when you say a solid questionnaire, what we call the scale development process through something has gone, all these measures are measured to arrive at a acceptable question. So this is how that chapter will end, and then that will conclusion and discussion and conclusion. Then recommendations, limitations of the study, bibliography, and annexures. So that is how the whole thesis will be there. We have less than a minute. I think we'll have to continue with the third part.
Right.
It's taken slightly longer than we thought.
Yes, sir. So we continue in part 3.